This is not the only time I see a little bit of me in you, or your black letter disappears if you move right on by. This is not the only time I sit on your bank, put my head in my hands and dream a silly dream of perfect things and cry. The trees gaze down as I rise from the ground.
My memories are very much of being introduced to this gorgeous landscape in a way I hadn't seen it yet. So I had moved here from Ohio, which is a very different landscape, and Hitchcock Center was the place that introduced me to New England and to the woods. And I remember as a 10-year-old or 11, maybe by then I was 11, being incredibly excited about this new place to be. And it was that introduction that brought it alive for me. I think it was John Green, one of the naturalists from the Hitchcock Center, was my introduction to the Quabbin Reservoir. And to a kid who'd spent that much time in Cleveland, the Quabbin felt like a major wilderness.
Hitchcock Center is an environmental education center that works with ages 3 to adults. We work in a preschool program for 3 to 5-year-olds. We have other programs that work with children from 6 to 8, or the elementary level. And then we also work with college students, professional development students that become teachers. And we work with our community programs, or with families and adults.
All of that was what made my new home at that point feel like a great place to be. Now that's the home that I've come back to, and that's the home I share with my kids.
My name is Jenny McKenna, and I first came to the Hitchcock Center in 1980 when Ian was 10 and his little brother Eli was 2. We began just wandering around the center, and then we added programming. At some point I was invited to be on the board because I was representing the parents of the day camps. Because of the changes in neighborhoods, there weren't always adults home during the day. Kids couldn't just roam. And it was a very big question in my life as a mother. How am I going to be sure my children know how to play out? But it was crucial to me. And when we moved here from the city, we lived in Cleveland, Hitchcock caught my eye the first thing, because I thought, there's a place that'll have ideas and programming, and then we'll meet other families who want their children to have the same thing.
Do you want help or no help, Jeff?
Oh, maybe.
I think we're going to need to help each other.
I really think that it's important to let kids figure out what their bodies can do and by playing in the woods. And so when we climb trees, we're really like learning about our bodies and taking risks and gaining self-confidence about ourselves. And I really like to see how kids grow that way in the woods.
All right. Anybody else?
And a piece of that's so important, was important to me as a parent, was to hand you guys over to the care of other adults who were comfortable outdoors, so that they would be evaluating, is he climbing too high in that tree, is that right amount? Because I wasn't always confident of I didn't want to be too careful, but I didn't want to be careless. I was so glad to share those questions with someone else.
I did it! Me too.
I know.
I did it! Oh yeah! And now I'm dancing to it. Oh yeah.
And connecting that to what's going on in the schools, what's going on in our environment, is these children in this open environment, developing their own games, are self-regulating. They're figuring out how to set up their own structures, set up their own games.
That kind of experience is unfortunately all too uncommon in today's world. Structure is a prevalent approach to children's time, even when it's their free time. So I think that both of our kids have really treasured the opportunity to just go out and play in the field and enjoy themselves and do that in a way that is both safe and educational.
If you haven't been a risk player outdoors as a child, when it's time to trust your own children to playing outdoors, you don't know really what's safe and what isn't.
And I'd rather pick up Jonas, seeing that his You know, his clothes are covered in whatever he's been climbing in, sliding in, messing about in the whole time he's been at Hitchcock for the afternoon. That's my favorite reminder of how our kids have to be in that world.
If you gave me the chance, I'd climb a tree all day. It's just fun in some way that I don't get out of any other activity. It takes an amount of physical skill and then thinking at the same time, which might add to the fun part.
The spirit of the programs really comes from the staff at Hitchcock. They really enjoy what they do and are really dedicated to providing kids with a sort of profound sense of wonder about the world. And they still have that, and it comes through in what they do with the kids, and it really is picked up and brought into the learning that they take away from it.
So a couple weeks ago we had a curriculum day planned at the Hitchcock Center. Amherst schools had no school that day. One of the ideas I had for the morning was to set up kind of this treasure hunt through the woods. So in the morning before the kids arrived, I put clues out on the trees.
Go towards the field, home of the fox. Stay out of the mud and use the boardwalk. Yes, we're gonna use the boardwalks on the field.
And I had hidden a couple of thermoses of hot chocolate behind a tree, and I wrapped it in a burlap sack for camouflage.
Now this is a little hot, so you might have to blow on it just a little bit.
Make it colder. No.
You can warm your hands on the cup. It's great being out on a day like today.
I'm taking off my...
They then saw streams of water going through the golf course, and they saw little bits of snow that they could consider glaciers, and they started working with this water stream and damming it up and seeing what would happen to the snow. This is like what the frameworks in Massachusetts are about, teaching children about erosion and water and movement. They will go there and teach themselves those things if they're given the opportunity and the openness to just, okay, what's the next thing I want to explore? What's the next thing I want to do? But I could see about 3 different standards being met in that one experience.
I think when Reed and May became school-age children, it became clear to us that we wanted them to be able, on their own terms, to begin to make a connection with the natural world, so that their love would really be their own.
The first few times we had an after-school program that we called Nature Play, which is going to be an unstructured play, I was a little bit worried. I didn't have an agenda.
When Reed and May started in Nature Play after school, it didn't take long at all before we noticed that there was something different going on in the way that they brought their experiences from Nature Play back home to us. Through each Nature Play session, it was as though they would come home having found and kind of claimed another part of the environment around here as their own, and they really came to think of those places, the trees especially.
And it reminded me of games I played in my neighborhood growing up. No adults there. We had to figure out how to make the game fair. Sometimes we argued and fought, but it worked out.
I've been doing homeschool classes for 3 years at the Hitchcock Center. I think the reason that you should learn about the environment and nature, and the reason I believe it's good, is because some people will say that spiders are scary and they're bad, but spiders catch mosquitoes and eat mosquitoes. And a lot of people have a question of a creature that could hurt or hurt you, like a bug even. Say, why was this created? And it's because it's the circle of life and everything has a purpose. So maybe it was just there, but it was made for a spider to be able to catch. Me and my friend caught a bullfrog this big, and then we also caught a frog that was like light blue, like the color of this. And you can ask John and Tom over there about them because they are the first ones that found it.
If you were in like a classroom and they showed you a picture of a frog, you wouldn't get to hold it or see like how soft the belly is, and you can't hold the belly otherwise you kill the frog. You have to hold it by the legs. I had never known anything about frogs before, and so just to learn how to know what different frogs are which, and like probably which is a female, which is a male, and just knowing the different breeds of frogs is just really cool to me. That's like one thing that I value a lot.
There was a moment that I was understanding what Hitchcock was adding to Jonas's education when he had an exercise at school where they were supposed to write down a list of things, the list of their favorite things. And his teacher was very confused at the fact that scorpion appeared on his list of his favorite things.
And purposely, some of the animals that we choose to learn about are things that people are fearful of or don't know a lot about.
He could have a scorpion as his favorite thing because he knew so much about them. And it makes the link of if you understand something, then you can appreciate it. And if you appreciate it, then you will protect it and you will husband it forward. If you don't understand it, then you can't appreciate it. You can't love it, and then you won't protect it. So there's a direct connection there between the education and the appreciation and the conservation that I can't imagine leaving out of his education.
My name is Julian Kynes, and I'm 8 years old. I don't know why other humans think that bugs are less valuable than a human. All animals have their part, and like the food chain, a lion kills a zebra. It eats it. A lion dies. The zebra eats the grass that it's growing on.
Some people had found hundreds of bones buried under the leaf litter. So we went back to that place and we were kicking around, and a girl in my group found a leg bone about this long.
Oh, look at this bone.
Hey, you guys, Sophia found a bone over here.
We would talk about how it died there, if something carried it there and ate it, if it just died naturally, what kind of animal it would come from.
Maybe a leg? Oh. Yeah, a leg.
It looks like a knee joint.
That looks like like right here.
So many species are dying off just because of humans. Yeah, we're just like a species that evolved too much. Maybe polar bears and seals and walruses will adapt to having no icebergs to cling on. I really hope so. I love to know about my environment, and sometimes I wish I was an animal, but then I think I couldn't help the world if I was an animal.
As kids move into and move out of the demographic that the Hitchcock Center focuses on, they take with them what they've learned.
They came home from nature play just filled up with the things that they had experienced. And this was something that they wanted to share, and that really carried over around our family dinner table in a way that, that we came to love and to expect.
Hitchcock Center means that we're putting solar hot water on our house because of our environment here. It ties it to our surroundings. You know, we're putting quilts on the windows in the wintertime, our lovely window quilts, because it matters here. It matters in our valley, it matters to our air, it matters to our water. Those are all things I can do for myself and I can talk to my kids about because of what we do at the Hitchcock Center.
All things about the natural world become the business of the Hitchcock Center, and if you have a community without that kind of representation, it's a very different community. So I think the outcome, I don't know exactly how you measure the outcome of that, but the continued involvement and education of people about those issues seems to me a piece of the Hitchcock's job, and as such it's a very important feature of our town.
Well, people like nature because it helps you and it helps you breathe. It's all around us, everything comes from nature.
The world would just be a big lump of rock if there was no trees, animals, or birds, or even humans.
Animals, they need the green things to live. Nature is important because animals' habitats and us so that we can breathe by trees, and the ocean's important for animals that are in the sea.
After a while, I think if we didn't have all these animals here, we wouldn't be alive.
Well, nature is very, very important because how will we actually walk on land? How would we breathe? How would we even get water? If there were no trees and no plants, we couldn't survive. I hope we'll have a good amount of trees, not too many, but not too few. If there's too many, we won't survive either. If there's too many blocking our paths, we just can't get around. If there's too little, not many of us will survive. I know that a tree can provide air for 18 people if they lived for 200 years. And if we didn't have any nature, then we wouldn't have any of us. So that's why nature is important.